So this is a unboxing video shot in 2014 of NAD hybrid digital amplifier NAD D3020. So I've been using it for last 3 years, and this is just a overview of how it is packaged, what is inside, and my brief experience of using this amplifier. So I bought it in 2014 to use it with my desktop computer. I had a pair of Bauer and Wilkins 685s, the first version of that. So I've used that using coaxial cable through optical out. Now I have been using it on a newer version of Bauer and Wilkins PW685S2 on my TV. So it connects to the TV through the optical out SPDIF. The experience has been quite good. Initially, I could see it was quite balanced. The sound is quite balanced, not ultra refined. It's quite clear, fairly clear, but the output is slightly messed up. How that I would like to put it. So, but still, it is fairly good value for money, and I'm kind of happy using this one. So what comes inside is basically the amplifier itself, the power cord, and um, uh, basically a toast link to your 3.5 inch headphone jack adapter. So lately, after using it for about 3 years, what I find is the loudness of this amplifier is bit on the higher side. It has an emphasis on the mid range, so that it actually sounds more natural, because the human voice frequencies are centered around 1 kilohertz, so it has some sort of emphasis on that. So tonal quality is kind of neutral and slightly unnatural, I would say. Musical, but is not accurate. So when you compare it with really expensive amplifiers, you can see that you can hear this difference. But as such, around this price point, you will find this is quite good. So I've, I'm kind of thinking of replacing this one with uh, a more natural and accurate amplifier. The problem with this is the bass is good, profound, but it's kind of messed up. It is not accurate. Basically, the bass is kind of, you cannot feel the texture in the bass sound. It's like boom, but there's no sort of variations. Um, the ultra high range again is not clear. The high range is kind of on the lower side. The high range sounds are kind of, how to put it, is not very well defined. But otherwise, it's fairly good amplifier and goes well or sounds well with your Bauer and Wilkins speakers. So I would I would say this is a good value for money with plenty of input options. But again, it's a hybrid digital amplifier, that is, it converts your digital signals to analog through a DAC, and the DAC output is amplified using a class D amplifier, and it's all powered through a switch mode power supply. So in all, you can see this violates a lot of rules of pure audiophiles. I'm audiophile, but I do not like the traditional audiophile concepts. like switching more power supplies are not audiophile grade and all sort of things. So you can actually design fairly good switch mode power supplies in a hybrid topology and fairly large smoothing capacitors to actually have a microvolt level ripple. Again, you can use a very low dropout voltage regulator to further smoothen this for your sensitive amplifier circuits. And the class D topology I'm not a fan of, so I would rather prefer direct digital amplification. So you have really fast switching Mosfets. So what you can do is you can use a fairly high sample rate. Basically you up convert your audio signal to a fairly high sample rates of about 100 kilohertz or so, and then use your MOSFETs to recreate the amplified um, analog version. There are challenges around creating a low pass filter but in this approach, but still it is better than the pure analog amplification to some extent. um, yeah, we can go on talking about it, but yeah, this is a hybrid amplifier with analog input, digital input. Digital gets converted to analog. Analog goes to as basic amplification, and both this amplified sort of pre-amplified signals goes to a class D amplifier powered through a switch mode power supply and a fairly compact setup. So it's a bit complicated inside, but still it sounds well. So that's all I care for, and in fact all the end user cares for. um, what else? Yeah, I had a listen of the DVL8 the amplifier a few months back. It cost about 5,000 euros or so. The sound was spectacular. I would say it's really high, very well defined. And but when I researched about DVL8, how the amplifiers work, and what I got to know, they have a system called SAM, and the SAM thing is basically it has a graphic equalizer, a digital graphic equalizer, which uses digital signal processing to match the frequency response with the frequency response of your speaker with the amplifier's output. So you get to listen the audio in as it was recorded. But again, if you think about purists, they would say, it's not pure, it's no direct path and all that. But again, if a purist doesn't know what is how it is amplified, how many modifications were there, how many stages between input and output, they tend to believe this is ultimate. But when you disclose all that, so they will downrate it, and so it's a lot of things are about perception. I have seen in audio magazines the expensive gear is always rated high, most of the expensive gear, and the least expensives are kind of okay, not okay, and all that. But that shows that we have a tendency to to think that expensive gears are better, cheaper gears are not good. Yeah, it's all about perception. So I would suggest the audiophile reviewers should be blindfolded, should not be given any background about the amplifier and how much it costs, what brand it is, and should be asked to listen and write the review, and thereafter he should be disclosed what brand and what sort of setup he was listening to. So this way it will be a fairly unbiased review. Yeah, there are a lot of things I can talk about maybe in a later video, but for the time being, NAD 3020, internally it's complex. It's fairly a good package for 500 euros. Works well, gets a bit hot. I know it has a warm sort of warm to mid warm sort of character. It has some analog feel to it, analog amplifier feel to it. It's fairly clear. Textures are neutral, like your timbre is natural, neutral or natural. So what else? Yeah, and the audio level, the audio volume control is a bit clunky. It's not linear. It's a log scale, so when you reach towards the end, it actually increases the volume at a very high rate. So rate of change is not kind of linear. Remote is pathetic. There are no markings you can read. Everything is black. And the textured the cabinet is really pathetic. The texture has come out. It has become sticky. It had a smooth velvety texture when I bought it, but over the years it has that velvety structure has broken because of environmental elements, and the plastic has gone down and kind of become sticky. Otherwise it's a good amplifier.